everyone, I think almost everyone is now here. So welcome everyone to this webinar on building effective charts, graphs, and maybe tables. The reason why I and my team wants to talk about this topic is because normally what we see out there on presentations and with our clients is that a lot of people build charts, graphs, tables, again, in tools like Excel or PowerPoint. And once they build them, they leave them as they are. Now, that is a huge, huge missed opportunity for everyone, because if you know just a few more things, you can make that presentation and that visualization way more effective and way more easy for your audience to read. So the main goal of this talk today is to show you some tips and tricks that our own designers use, right? But you don't have to be a designer, so that you know how to apply those and how to turn your tables, charts, or graphs into better versions of those. Let's talk about why are we doing this webinar in first place? What do we see out there? So let me show you some charts. So let's go here. So I'll share my screen. You should be, Eva, let me know if you're seeing
we're
this
seeing
Explorer.
everything. Yep.
Perfect. So I want to show you what do we see, and let us know in the chat your reactions once you see those. So here is one chart that I believe is extremely well done. So that is the first one. This is absolutely real chart. The story behind it is that the person who showed it, once I personally asked him, so what are you trying to say here? He was not even able to tell me. So their organization have built that chart. He's showing me that chart, and he, who is coming from that organization, doesn't know what this chart is saying. That's the first one. I think it's a very well done chart.
So we have a comment that it's very sexy, or the other one is that it's an art illustration of New York. So with a little bit more imagination, I guess you can say that one.
Let's be even more sexier. Now, I know that not everyone here understands Bulgarian, but I really, trust me, I really cannot stop myself of showing that. You don't have to read to be able to, or to know Bulgarian to appreciate that thing here. That is a piece of beauty, I would say, and that is something that when I saw it for first time, I was absolutely amazed. I don't know what you guys think about that, but I believe that is
100%. It's not adding up to 100%. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I haven't checked that one, because the first thing that comes to my mind is that somebody used Office 98 or something like that. Not sure if that one existed back then, but it looks like a very, very old-fashioned chart.
It is very, very old. Again, I'm not finished here, so let's move on to the third one. And let's see the third one, because I think it's a very good one. So here is a screenshot of a chart that has many things, I would say, set in a very interesting way.
You need to look at it like carefully to figure out what's wrong.
Yeah, so obviously it's not summing up to 100% here. However, what worries me, at least me, let me know if it's, again, just me here, but look at the source of that. Because you would say, and the normal person would think that, wait a minute, this is LinkedIn, right? It should be right. It should be correct. Well, I don't know. Again, we are appreciating your comments in the chat and your feelings and how do you think about that. So these are just some of the examples that I wanted to show you so that we appreciate and we understand why do we need to talk about that topic in first place, right? So now let's go back to our presentation here. Once we have seen a lot of charts, some ugly, some bad, some ugly, some very ugly, right? Let's talk about what chart types do we have on the market, because we have a ton of them. And in this webinar, I want to focus and kind of remind ourselves very briefly, what are the most basic and known chart types? Which are the ones that our audiences know how to read very, very easily? So let's start with the pie chart. Pie chart, as we already said, shows part of the whole and must must sum up to 100%, as someone already said in this call. Now, if you are a bit fanatic in terms of data visualization, you may have heard that there is some research saying that pie charts are evil, that are very hard to read, because, you know, we as human beings, in order to understand how big every single pie is, we are actually reading the arc, right, of the pie chart, and that is not something that we can do well. However, there is another side of the story, and there is another group of researchers that say completely the opposite, that pie charts are completely fine. I don't know which part you are taking, which community and which side you are taking. Again, pie charts are here, they're being used a lot, and people know how to read them very, very well. Then we have the donut charts, same as the pie charts, showing part of the whole. And again, must sum up to 100%. Some people call the donut chart the modern, or I would say it this way, the more sexy version of the pie chart. So I don't know whether or not you appreciate, whether or not you choose between the pie chart and the donut chart, or whether or not you think that the donut chart is the better one or the more sexy one. I personally think it's a bit more sexy, but that's just my personal preference. Again, the rules are the same, 100%, and shows part of the whole. Which one do you choose? I'm leaving it up to you and your personal preference. Then we have the line charts. Line charts are also quite popular in the business world, and not only. Why do we use line charts, and when do we use line charts? When we want to show continuous data and some values a long time. We want to see a trend, for example. This is the perfect moment when we want and when we can use and utilize the power of line charts. Here, the important thing is that you can show one series a long time, right? I can track it, for example, for a period of 1 year. Let's say I can plot 2 series or multiple, right? So I can do that very, very easily. And I believe everyone here knows that very, very well. The problem, by the way, with those is that maybe you have seen it, I don't know, but the problem with line charts, it's when you have 10 of them, right? Then it becomes just a little bit tricky. Then we have our friend, the bar charts. The bar charts, in this case, the vertical ones, why do we use them to compare values, right? We want to use them, and we need to use them when we want to compare values. The specific thing here, they are very extremely easy to read. Everyone knows how to read a bar chart, extremely easy to read. And again, there is a ton of research behind why that is the case. And we can share with you some very interesting articles by very renowned researchers on the topic. And his or her brother, depending on how you want to call it, the horizontal charts, they are again comparing values, but they are perfect when the category names that you have are very long. I don't know whether or not you have seen or you have experienced for yourself such a case where the category name, in this case, we have the months. However, you will see in a minute, you will see a chart where the category names are very long. And when they become very long, if I have this chart, the names go under angle. And that could be a problem because the people, our audience, has to push themselves a lot to read, like kind of go this way and try to understand what's happening. However, if you just use the horizontal bar chart, everything changes, and that's a very easy way for you to fix that problem. If you have long category names, those horizontal charts are horizontal bars are very, very easy, and the whole category name will be displayed. And then just before you thought that I'm not going to talk about tables, our favorite visualization, right? They're here. Don't worry about it. Tables, when do we use tables? When we want to display multiple values or a lot of things, just a lot of things. You will see them quite often in the business world, I would say, and again, not only in the business world. However, important note here, tables are not visualizations. So we have to be a bit more careful here. A very quick advice before we move on, if you are going to be presenting live, if you are going to be presenting in front of a live audience or on a call like Zoom or Microsoft Teams or Cisco WebEx or whatever you may be using, and you're planning to use a table in front of that audience, my ask and on everyone on our team's ask is please try to rethink that. Like think again, even though I know that you don't have time and you're very busy, think again, really, is the table the only option for me to convey the message that I want to convey? Sometimes it will be. However, sometimes you may find yourself that maybe a bar chart will be easy, maybe a pie chart will be easy. So every single time when you're presenting a table or when you're planning to present a table, think about it twice and try to push yourself and say to yourself, is there a better way? Can there be a better way? And if there isn't, and you're going to be using a table, I was going to say a chart. If you're going to be using a table, then at least try to animate it. And if you don't know how to animate the table, we have a free course, not a free course, we have a video where I was speaking at some conference where I demonstrated that. Eva can link it up afterwards and we can send it over to you, or you can go on our online course on PowerPoint tips and tricks where you can learn 39, because overall the course is 40 tricks. You can learn 39 more tricks like those. And then one more, by the way, before we end the visualizations, we have something that we call the simple number. That one looks more or less like this. You can use it to stress or show one specific value or a few specific numbers, specific values. The issue with that one, I would say, the strange thing is that almost no one uses those. It's very rare, like it is very rare. And I would argue that that is the case because at least I personally have heard from people that when you ask them, why don't you just put that number on the slide? And what they say is in the lines of, well, if I just put that line, that number on the slide, my colleagues and my audience would think, they would think that I haven't done my homework, that I haven't explored all the topic in detail. They're afraid to simplify to that level. Now I understand that that's a bit tricky to tackle, but I think with time that is going to be becoming way more normal, and we're going to see such visualization more and more, hopefully. So of course, when there is a case for them, right?
Yep, absolutely. And to be honest, I have the same situation with clients where they say, well, it just looks so simple. So it doesn't have all of the data around it. Why should I put just the number? Well, if it's doing its job, why not? So that's always an opportunity, and there is always a way how you can use such kind of visual.
Yep. And obviously here you see some other charts, some other chart types, and these are not all of them, right? Maybe some of you have used those already. Maybe you have seen them at least. We're not going to discuss them in this webinar today. However, stay until the end because I have a question and I'm going to come back to this one to ask you something. However, I have put them here so that we just know that, hey, these that you have seen up until now and that we reminded ourselves of are the ones that people know very, very well, and our audiences can kind of understand very, very easily. There are a lot of types of charts. Some of them look very simple. Some of them look way more complicated. But every single time when it's not one of those charts that you have seen, you have to be careful when you're planning to use something like this, because you never know whether or not that chart can be read without any issues from the other end. Our end goal with you is to build a chart or to build a visualization that's easy to consume. And if in our kind of wish to make something look sexier, we use something that, let's say it's a slope graph, but our audience doesn't know and it's first time seeing a slope graph, then we may want to consider that as a point, or at least introduce that graph to them, tell them how that graph is being read or should be read, and then present a slope graph to them. So just be mindful about any other chart type, because those that you have just seen are the popular ones and the ones that the business world communicates with. Now, that's it with the charts. Now, I want to throw you in another place now. We already reminded ourselves how bad the world is. There are a lot of bad charts, and I'm sure that everyone here can point to some bad charts that they have seen in the past. We know some of the basic ones. However, how do we decide? What is the approach to decide on a chart? And how do we consume data if you think about it? Now, there are two ways of us consuming data that we can come up with and that we should discuss, because We are both consumers in both ways, but we are also building those visualizations for our audiences. So we have to be careful in what mode, what is the mode, what type of visualization do we need to build? Is it exploratory visualization or explanatory? So let's get into the details of each one of those and understand the differences. So what is the exploratory type of consuming and visualizing data? In this mode, your audience sees a visualization and explores it. It goes inside and analyzes that data by themselves, right? Where do you see that? You see that in dashboards. You log into Power BI, the service of Microsoft, let's say. You log into Google Analytics, you see a chart, and you say to yourself, wait a minute, what's happening here? And you click on that bar, and you drill down, and you drill down again, and you look for the details. You spotted something very interesting. Or you log into your corporate intranet where you have even a simple Power Pivot, right? In Excel, you have your own permissions on that Excel workbook, and you drill down the data and you say to yourself, wait a minute, what happened last month? Why do we have so many new hires or newcomers? Did we get a new project? What's happening here? And then you start to analyze that data. You start to discover things for yourself. Where else do you see that? You see it in documents, right? There is a big table in that document. That document is being sent to everybody in the organization, and everyone looks at that table and everyone reads it in their own way. Everyone is searching for their data and everyone is taking decisions based on it. But everyone is looking at it based on their kind of point of view and their way of understanding their business, their department, etc. Again, the keyword here is analyzing, discovering information. And of course, in reports, the same way as with documents. So here, the keyword again is discovering. You are looking at some data, you are looking at some charts, or you're looking at a table, and you are discovering information for yourself, right? So in order for me to illustrate that, let me show you what I mean when I say this. So I already mentioned Google Analytics, right? I already mentioned Google Analytics. So let me bring you behind the scenes. So this is the Google Analytics of our website, right? That's how it looks. And now I can see a ton of data here. There is some line chart here, but I would say, wait a minute. I can see some page views here, 2,000 page views, or more or less close to 2,000 page views, but this is for the last week, right? And in this case, I would say, I don't know whether or not Mishu is watching. If you are, Mishu is our marketing person. Mishu, if you're watching this, relax. First of all, so I would say, wait a minute, what's happening here? Let's see whether or not Mishu did some progress with our website. Let me try to find out whether or not our website is being visited more in the last year. So I would say, let me change the filter here. I will change the date. I will go 1 year back in May 2019. Boy, that was back. So here it is. And I will apply the filter, and then we are waiting again. I'm discovering some new things. I'm analyzing the data by myself. And I spot something that's kind of interesting. So in the last year, there is something that's happening. Obviously, something happened here, right? There is some peaks here. So if I go here, I want to go and see what is this thing here. And I'm searching. So this is the 20th of March. Something happened on the 20th of March. What happened? Eva, do you know something about that?
Somebody in the comments is saying that Mishu appeared. Mishu appeared
Maybe.
a little bit before that, but actually on 20th of March, I think we launched the PowerPoint tips and tricks for free for a month and a half. So I think that's when we got actually more than 1,000 people that went to the website and registered for the course. So I guess that's something that happened.
That's that peak. However, if you look at it, this is not the only one. We have even higher. And now I'm looking at this one and I'm like, what is this one? So what is this? This is on the April 29th.
Yeah, that
happened on the April 29th. Is that the website?
I think it's the website, yes. Because we didn't want to launch it on May 1st. We launched it on April 29th. So that's why it's a little bit of a weird date, but that's something that happened there.
So that is what happened there. Okay, so now I hope you understand. So Mishu, by the way, congratulations on the work that you have done. It's very visual. It's very easy to understand that you are here with us. So thank you for all your efforts and all of those peaks. Hopefully they will become even bigger at some point. So going back, Mishu appeared indeed in that moment. So going back to the presentation, I hope that you now understand what I mean when I say exploratory, right? I look at the dashboard, I look at a chart, in this case, a line chart, and I'm seeing some things. I'm like, that is interesting. What happened here? Let me ask somebody. Let me correlate with some other data. Let me try to wait a minute, there is another peak. What's happening here? Why was our website so visited? This is exploratory. I'm discovering things, right? There is nobody, there is no thing in Google Analytics that tells me on the first of whatever you launched the website and that's why you have visited, you have so much, you have a peak of visitors, right? Yeah. I have to see that for myself. I'm discovering that. So that is the exploratory way of consuming data. Then, however, we said that we have the explanatory. In this case, we kind of change something here because what we need to change is the way of, the way of consumption. In this mode, let's call it this way, what we do and what we strive for is to show a visualization and for the audience to understand it very quickly, right? They see it, snap, they understand it. That's what we are aiming for. So where do you see such type of visualizations? You see them in social media, right? No one in their right mind is going to show you a big table in your feed and ask you to stop and analyze that and tell yourself, oh, wait a minute, that's let me stop and read that whole table. What you end up seeing on social media, let's say, is a big contrasting photo. If you're on Facebook or something that's, let's say, red with a big number on it saying 84% of the world's population is drinking cola. That's the insight. That's what the message is. That's what someone wants to convey to you. This is what they want you to understand. And you look at that creative, I cannot do that. It's a snap and you move forward and you continue to scroll, but you understood the message. This is on social media. This also should be in most presentations. Again, in the presentation world, you have to plan for most of the times. Again, there are exceptions to the rules. And we have a lot of clients for which we have built visualizations that are for exploratory mode, right? There are some cases like this, but mostly you are looking for a visualization that has to convey a message to the audience as quickly as possible so that once they see the visual, they understand it and they return their attention back to you. So that's where you see those type of visualizations. And then you have slide documents or slide docs, as they call them in our industry. These are presentations that are again being built in PowerPoint, Google Slides, hopefully not that many, unfortunately, hopefully not unfortunately, it's just that Google Slides is not the favorite tool of our designers, but that's a long story.
And especially if you try to do that with data. So if you want to do beautiful data visualizations with Google Slides, I challenge you to try to do that.
By the way,
would look fine. Data in Google Slides, try it.
I would just go behind the scenes quite quickly here and say that the last time when we were trying to visualize data in Google Slides natively, I mean, one of our designers was very close to crying, like very close. That I'll stop here. And then again, going back to the content, you can see such type of visualizations in slide documents or slide docs. These are presentations that are being sent over email. They're being consumed as more or less documents, right? So the keyword here is, again, understanding, right? I want to see something and understand it very, very quickly. So to give you a quick example of how this may look, again, here is a visualization that is in that mode. Our storytelling course generated whatever revenue in 2019. Storytelling 30,000 euros in 2019, right? That is a chart, that is a visual that conveys a message. That's the difference. I don't have to analyze anything. I don't have to look at a table. I don't have to do anything. I have seen the title. I have seen the blue bar. Clear. Let's move on. What's next? Right? That's it. So let's now do a bit of interaction here. So let's go here. Let's do a quick exercise. I'm very passionate for exercises. So let's try, and I'll show you 4 visuals, and I want you to type in the chat. Is this a visual that's suitable for exploratory way of consumption or for explanatory? So let's try this out. So what is this one? Exploratory or explanatory? Let us know in the chat.
Okay, let's see. Exploratory.
Exploratory?
Yep. Everyone is saying exploratory so far. Yep. Exploratory.
Good. Perfect. Okay. That is very, very good progress now. So let's move on to the next one. Slide number 2. What is this one? Exploratory or explanatory again?
Explanatory.
Okay, so now we flipped. Okay, we saw more trainings than planned. Okay.
Yep.
So is there...
Yep, there are some people who are saying that it's exploratory. Some are saying that it's explanatory.
Okay, but
so it's a
50,
draw,
50?
it's too noisy. Explanatory, exploratory. So it's kind of a little bit of a 50-50, by the way.
That's interesting. Okay, let's move on to one more. What about this one? What is this one?
Explanatory.
Easy.
Yep, that
okay,
one maybe
easy
is a
one.
bit of an easy one.
Okay, easy one.
Explanatory. Yep.
Okay, one last one, the 4th one. Let's go.
That
People
one is a bit tricky, but let's see. Explanatory, exploratory,
okay.
explanatory.
Okay, so people are
again.
Mixed feelings here.
Mixed feelings. Explanatory, very mixed.
Okay, very.
Most people are saying explanatory.
That is interesting because if you look at this one, it is a simple pie chart, right? However, what is the message that it's conveying? Like, take a look at it carefully. What is the message that it's conveying? It's just saying you training revenue in percent. So now, if you understand so if you now think about explanatory, what is the message that this thing is saying, is telling me? Course C is 32%, course D is 28, course A is 20, course B is 20 also. So what is the message here? I may see it and say, wait a minute, why do we have 2 courses that are bringing the same revenue? Right? I can maybe that's the message that we wanna convey. Or maybe, what is this course C here? Like, why is it 32% of our, which is this course? So this is, in this case, this is exploratory visual, right? I can see it and I can extract so many insights out of it, but I don't know exactly what the person who did that wants to convey to me with that visual, right? So now that we have said that, let's move on to something that's very important for both the explanatory and the exploratory. However, let's focus a bit more on the explanatory visualizations because we want, again, back to the fact that we want to see more of those in our presentations. Let's try to understand how do we build those. We have a few questions that we want to answer every single time when we are building a chart. The first one is, who is the audience that's going to be, who is the audience that's going to be reading that chart? Who are those people? What do they know? Where are they coming from? Do they have some bias against that data? How are they going to see that? Also is becoming more and more popular if you think about it. So you're going to be presenting something to some group of people. However, how? Are you going to be presenting it as a document? Because if it's a document, you can put annotations on the charts and put some more information about it, some text that's explaining even more in detail. Are you presenting it live in your office? Now that we are going back to the offices, is the presentation in one of your rooms? Or are you presenting it online? Because if it's online, then you may want to think about the fact that maybe someone is consuming it over mobile phone, on their phone. And if that's the case, you have this screen. And if you are planning to put 4 visualizations on that screen, you may want to rethink that, because most of the people, if you look at some of the latest research, for example, coming from Facebook, they were saying that more than 80% of the people who are watching Facebook Lives are consuming them on their mobile devices. And if that's the case, well, that means that a lot of people are watching those webinars or participating in online meetings through their mobile phone. And our slides should be way simpler, with bigger visuals, etc. Eva actually talked about this in the last 2 webinars, so you can see the recordings on our YouTube channel. This is the first thing that I want to know. What's the point that I want to make, or that you want to make? So is that clear? What is the message that you want to convey, right? What is this visual all about? What's the insight? And then I want to also know, how are you going to do that? So what is the data that you need, and what chart or what chart types are you imagining would work, so that you can, once you display those, you can convey that message in front of those people, no matter of their communication case, no matter of their case, meaning where are they consuming that? Is that online, in front of you, whatever, right? So we're searching for context here. We're searching for details. We want context so that we build the best visual possible. So to give you an example of how this looks like, I can say, okay, let's try to build a chart. And I can say, for who is that chart? And I would say, well, it's for my team, for our team here. I know them very well, or at least I think I know them very well. Sometimes it looks like I don't, but that's another story also. That's for our team, right? I know them, I know what biases they have against the topic, etc. So then what, right? So take a look at this one for 10 seconds. I don't have to read this, right? So this is what I want to show them, right? That's exactly what I want to show them. That's my point. That's the insight that I want to show them. So how am I going to do this? Again, 10 seconds for you to read this. And that's just one take, right? That's just a simple example. Absolutely, by the way, fictional example. That's very important for me to mention. So how can that look, right? What is one option? Because you shouldn't be thinking about visualizing data or design in the first place as something that has one option and one option only, and there is only one thing that's possible and working. So what is one read of that text here? So how can I visualize the data? Well, maybe I can visualize it this way, right? Maybe, right? That's one of the ways that I can visualize that data. I'm using the modern, sexy donut chart, explaining and marking the 2 courses in blue, marking that in the title also, and the others, all of the other 6 courses that we offer are combined into another piece that's called others, right? That's one read of it. So that's how it can look. Now that we have talked about that one also.
By the way, Boris, maybe just one thing to add here. Many times people want to show, let's say, 2 or 3 things that are more important than the others and that are the focus of their chart. And then they leave all of the other 5, 6, or 7 items that they just stay there. They have, let's say, 1 or 2 or 3 or 5% part of the pie.
Okay.
Well, if you don't need them at that point, you can kind of combine them and put one title like others or additional or whatever you think is suitable. Because if you think about it, the focus should be, as in our case, on those 2 parts of the pie, of the donut in that case.
Yeah, the summing up the categories or the things that are not mandatory to be considered is a great technique. And here in this case, we have done is we have combined and summed up all the percents of all the other courses into one new piece and said, hey, all of the others are 38%, 38%. So now that we have talked about this, I want to go and cover something else that's very, because everyone we also received your feedback in the type form. For those of you, by the way, who registered for this webinar and received our email, most of you haven't seen, and that's your fault. I'm going to point with finger to you. We have asked you in the email, what do you want us to cover? And we have seen more or less the same answer in some of your replies. So here we go again. One of those replies was, hey, let's also be very practical. Tell us how to build better charts. So I hope that up until now you have some new ideas in your head, but now let's cover three very, very oftenly seen mistakes. Like you can see those mistakes very often in the presentations out there, not only in Bulgaria, but all over, that are at the same time very easy to fix, right? Very easy to fix. So let's go here. So what is the problem with that visualization? someone let me know, please.
Oh.
Or if leave your comment in the chat. What is the problem here?
It looks pretty neat if you think about it.
Looks pretty neat. Okay, sure. Not how much time does it take me to read it? Like,
yep.
I cannot do this anymore. So it's like 2 seconds, right? What is the problem here? Anyone?
Too big. No source.
Okay.
The circle symbol.
Okay. So someone said there is no source, right?
Yeah. Radoslav said that there is no source.
So exactly. In this case, look below now at the bottom of the slide, there is no source. Now, the source of the data is absolutely critical to be there. I will tell you a story very quickly here because that happened in front of me. I think it was now 4 years ago, 5 years ago. And then I also want to make let's actually start with a point. Maybe you have heard, and if you haven't heard about this person, you have to check his work. His name is Alberto Cairo. So this person recently was at on a presentation guild webinar. And if you also don't know what the presentation guild is, please go ahead and check them out. They're our colleagues. So they asked him some questions in regards to data visualization because he is considered one of the top minds in the data visualization space. He writes a lot of the best books on the subject. And in his books, he constantly says that if the data doesn't have a source, you should immediately discredit it. I'm pointing this out because don't forget that the people who are interested in the topic will at some point read his books. And when they read that you should discredit data that doesn't have source, and at some point those people are in your audience or in our audience, and we don't put the source there, we can have problem, right? And going back to the story, so that I move to the next slide, the source is very, very important, right? Just to give you context on the story. So 5 years ago, here in Bulgaria, there was a very interesting case. There was a lady that is C-level executive, and she was presenting at a very big conference, technical conference here in Bulgaria. So her presentation was going very, very well. She was talking about user experience, something that, at least to me, I adore that topic. I enjoy reading and listening about that. So that's why I joined the session. When I joined that room, it was packed. It was 200 or 300 people already in. It was completely full. So I stayed at the back of the room and listening. And so the presentation is going very well. Back on what we were talking about in previous webinars, story, design, delivery, the 3 components that make a truly presentation, truly effective presentation. What she was saying, the story, genius, right? Very interesting, very easy for me to understand. So I'm engaged, I'm involved. The design, well, she's a designer. She's a user experience person. So it's better, I would say that if her slides were not looking very, very professionally done, that was going to break the trust between her and the audience. And the delivery, she's an experienced speaker. You can say it very, very easily. She has rehearsed her talk. Everything was perfect. So at some point, she shows up a number, and it looks like this. However, it says 42%. And she says something about the 42%, and then she moves on, right? She goes to her next slide. 2 or 3 seconds later, the person right next to me, right next to my shoulder, which is this is my right, maybe now in your case this way, I don't know anymore, raises his hand from the back of the room and says, "Excuse me, where is this data coming from?" Right? Here is the question. What is the source of the data? And the lady replies with, "Well, the data is coming from multiple resources." In this moment, I don't know for you, and I don't know how you would react to this, but what you see in a room, and in that room, is that people start to laugh. That is the moment when she lost the trust in the audience. What are those multiple resources? How did you analyze? How did you combine them? What are the methods that you used? There are so many questions, so I don't believe you anymore. And what's worse, I don't even believe what you said up until now, right? And maybe I'm going to question everything that you're about to say from now on. So be extremely careful, put the source somewhere at the bottom of the slide. It doesn't have to be very visual, very big, but it has to be there.
Yep.
Then another issue that you can fix very, very easily. So here is a chart that you kind of saw already. So this chart has, again, if I try to improve that chart, and again, I want to do that easily without being a designer and not spend time on it, the only thing that I can do is change one thing. And that one thing, I really believe that you can now recall the examples that we were doing as an exercise. You will see that there was a difference in the explanatory charts, and the difference was at the upper part, at the top part. You can change the title. The title, when you're creating a chart that's explanatory, should convey the message of the chart, right? In this case, I reordered the bars so that they're in descending order because it makes sense for the numbers to be in descending order. But what I did most here, what's the most important thing that I did, was just to change the text in the title, nothing else. And if you just change that, your charts will become way easier to consume, because our behavior, once we see a full-blown sentence, because you can allow yourself a full-blown sentence in slides that are even being presented in front of a live audience. Once I see the insight out of that chart, what I do and what your audience will do is they're not going to explore the data below. They are going to seek for confirmation of that insight, which is completely different behavior. I see our storytelling courses doing whatever. I see the storytelling bar, clear, done, move on. Very quick fix, just change the title. Very quick fix. So you can see that in the literature or in the blog post. You can see some people call it action title. Hey, place an action title in your charts. You can see some people call it summary title, and some people call it takeaway title. To me, and for you, I would say call it the way that you like. However, this is one of the very easy fixes that you can apply to the charts that you are building. And the third one, I can see there is some engagement there. Some people are raising hands. Stay with us, so we are going to take care of those. The third one, I have a question again. It's my time to ask questions. It's not yours this time. So let me know in the chat, what do you think are the numbers here? So orange is how many percent, and black is how many percent, and which one is bigger? Are they equal? Which one is smaller? Give us our guesses.
Let's see.
Let's go. Let's spend a minute on this one. So what are the comments?
Black equals yellow. Orange is 25%. Black is 30%.
Okay.
35 to 30. Yellow
Okay.
is bigger. Blue is equal to gray. 25
Okay, so,
each.
Okay.
You need a bar chart.
You need a bar chart. Okay. I was expecting someone to say you need Mishu here to do something with this chart. Anyway, so there are a lot of mixed opinions, right?
Yeah.
There are people that are saying
different numbers.
Yeah, different numbers. A lot of people say, hey, the black one is bigger, right? However, if you look at it carefully, the truth is somewhere looks like this. Now, why this happens is because of our favorite 3D in charts, in PowerPoint in particular. So you can flip a chart in 3D, and most of the times what we see with our clients is they're using 3D in pie charts, and they're using, which is even, it looks at least even crazier, using bar charts in 3D. If you are doing that, please stop doing that, or please tell everyone around you to stop doing that, and point them to this course, or if they are to this webinar, and if they have any question, let them ask. 3D can mislead tremendously, and here is maybe the moment where I should say, and if you want to mislead some people, maybe you should consider 3D. But again, I think that that's not the right approach in any communication, even though if you Google Steve Jobs 3D, you will see your Uncle Stevie using 3D charts when he was presenting, which is kind of very interesting if you think about it, right? He may have, probably he didn't know, right? Probably he didn't know that he was using 3D, maybe, but just maybe. Anyway, so don't use 3D. Just flip the chart in 2D, or the bar chart or the pie chart. It's always easier to read. Always, always, always. And if we have to try this again, take a look at the bars. What is the number? What are the bars? What do you think? Are they equal? And what's the value of each? What's on top of your head?
1.8, not equal.
Not equal? Okay.
1.9.
1.9 now, okay. Interesting. So just to give you context about that one, take a look at the truth behind it. So that's actually the same chart. And if you try to simplify it even further and try to kind of remove things that are, in this case, for example, duplicated, you see the y-axis duplicating the values, the data labels. So if you remove that one and you remove the grids, it may look something like this, right? Now you may be asking yourself, Boris, wait a minute, why is that none of your charts have source when you say that they should have source?
That's a good point.
The answer to that one is, wait for it, because none of those charts represent real data. That's why. So
people were guessing that it's internal data, but it's internal but not real, let's say.
Yeah, so it's internal but not real. Exactly. So that's why they don't have the source. And now that you know about the source, the action, summary, takeaway, title, and the 3D, let's end with something that's absolutely mandatory. This is the tables. And boy, oh boy, everyone loves tables, right? Everyone uses those tables. Now, I want to show you something in regards to tables because I think that's very, very interesting. I will quickly show that to you because we are already almost 1 hour in. So let me show you the normal table. The normal table looks like this, right?
That one looks quite good.
By the way, that is a table that doesn't look that bad if you think about it. It is just that we have a very big problem and we are struggling to come up with something that looks very, very bad. Sometimes when we try to build it, it's very hard for us to build it. And then that table can look like this. It is the same table, right? It is the same table. However, a few things were done to that table. And I want to quickly show you what was done to this table because that represents the way designers think. So if you take this table, you will first see that the title itself is with a font that's called Gotham Pro, right? This is our corporate font. And maybe for those of you who are working in small, medium, large organizations, you have some corporate font. This one is not Gotham Pro, right? This one is Calibri, the most popular font on the planet. Calibri. Please, if you are using Calibri for some reason and you have a corporate font, change it. Now, what designers do is they ask very important question. What is the most important thing in a table? And the most important thing in a table, when you hear the answer of most people that we ask is, they say, the data. The data is the most important thing. So then why do we have so much color, so much other things that are preventing the audience to read that data? Now, if you look at how a designer works, what they are going to do is they are going to, let me hide this for a second. So they're going to remove the color on the first step. The first step that the professional designer should do is to remove the color of the whole table. So from the table design, they are going to choose a style, which is the first one on the left-hand side. Now it looks scary, right? Looks kind of scary. What they're going to do afterwards is they're going to separate the column name and the other data. So what they're going to do is they're going to go to the table design. They're going to say, give me a bit thicker line, let's say 3 points. Give me another color, the orange color, let's say, based on our brand. And let's put a border that's underneath the selected row. So that's how I can put that line here, right? What they're going to also do afterwards is they're going to say, let's talk about the visual, they say the visual hierarchy, right? The column names should be bigger and more visible and bolder than the data underneath. So what they're going to do is maybe they're going to try to bold that or to make it bigger or both, right? They're going to make the size of the font bigger and both those text boxes. So in this case, you'll see that this is 14, this one is 16, so I would make it bold. Then I'm going to see that this column on the left-hand side is center aligned. And if you are used to reading tables, you'll see that normally the column on the left-hand side is always left aligned. So they're going to align the column to the left, right? And then they're going to ask the question, hey, so how do I make sure that we still see that this is a table, that still we have those separations that between the columns? However, what they're going to do is they're going to select all the rows. They're going to go to a table design. They're going to use a very thin line, because what they want to do is still help you out to understand where the column ends, where is the column in first place. However, they want to use the thinnest line possible because they don't want you to see that line that much. It has to be there, but just to be there, as little as possible. It's serving a purpose, right? So that one, I would select the 1.1/4 of the point, or whatever it's called. I will select on a white background. A professional designer will always select a light gray color. If you have a dark background, they're going to select dark gray so that it almost merges with the background, right? But it's still there. So let's use that one. And then I will say, just give me all the, let's say, give me all the, where is it? The horizontal borders. Yeah. So let's go here and take a look. So this is what a professional designer would do. And depending on how bad the initial table was formatted, you will see different things that they're going to do. But initially, they're always going to remove the color. They're always going to align properly. And they're always going to separate the names on top and make them bigger, bolder, etc., so that there is the so-called visual hierarchy. The column name kind of is bigger and bolder, and it's bigger and bolder, and then the data underneath is below it, because the plant column, this is the data for the plant column, and it's part of it. The plant text on top explains it. So that's why it needs to be bigger. Now, that being said, the main idea here is to simplify any visual. However, I would argue, and it's not me actually, I would not argue, but again, Alberto Cairo in this webinar made a brilliant point that in our wish to always simplify, to always make a beautiful visual, we sometimes oversimplify, and we sometimes build charts or graphs that he says sometimes become so simple that they lose the message, or they can convey a different message. So what he said, and I'm kind of quoting here, he said, you should not strive for simplifying a chart. You should be striving for clarifying the data that you want to present. And when you try to clarify the data, and when you try to make your message clear, then the beauty of the chart is just, as he says, a byproduct of this. So I would say that this is something that we should be striving for. So this is what we wanted to start with. This is what we wanted to present to you today. This is kind of the process and the fundamental things that you need to know, and some of the most common mistakes that happen when we are visualizing data, some of the places where we can very quickly improve on. So if you are building some charts right now, if you are building charts in the upcoming weeks, please take a look at the recording, or please remind yourself what we talked about and try to apply it, because I believe, at least that's my understanding, that if you do that, based on your comments, I mean, that if you do that, if you try to apply those learnings, your charts, your graphs, your tables will become way better and way easier for your audience. So thank you for joining us for this 1 hour.